My name is Julietta Curenton, and I'm the Assistant Professor of Flute here at Shenandoah Conservatory in Winchester, Virginia. I'm coming to you today to share the Flute and the Piccolo excerpts for the 2025 All Virginia Band competition. And I'm going to start with flute. So first we're looking at Melodious and Progressive Studies by Robert Cavally. It's book number 1 and number 11. That is the required etude here. And so we're going to start a little bit. Let me just tell you, having been a judge both on the state and the regional level for these types of auditions, and also for the National Youth Orchestra in New York City, I'm always looking for someone that can play off the page. You know, I don't want it to sound like it's written. I want it to sound like it's felt. So it takes a while to get there, but as much as you can in these auditions, most people can play notes. Most of you guys are really great flutists, you know, but can you actually bring the music to life? And to me, that starts with phrasing and with shaping. And I think this excerpt really gives you experience in actually bringing out those shapes. So let's just look at it. Looking at the beginning. In general, I think that these are 4-bar phrases. So when you see bars 1 through 4, I would think of them like this. So bars 1 and 2 are doing the crescendoing, 3 and 4 are the decrescendoing, okay? And then you'll find throughout almost the entire excerpt that this is happening every 4 bars. The grandioso is a little bit different. It's more lyrical. But again, you want to keep this idea of the shape there. So in the grandioso, going to the low B flat. That would be the climax of the crescendo. So just make sure you're shaping, because you want us to be able to hear the line. Otherwise, it's random notes and we don't really know how they come together. I always say that phrasing is like creating a sentence. You know, you need commas, you need apostrophes, you know, you need semicolons. All of that's important grammar to bring the sentence to a place of understanding. Otherwise, it's a big run-on. So doing that here, now you're going to note in measure 3, you begin the decrescendo again, and that's fine. But just in general, keep this idea of the motion going to bar 3 so that we have somewhere to come back from, okay? I would be very, very gentle in the articulation on bar 3, because if you're coming back to a piano, then you want the articulation. I change places where I put my tongue. If it's a harsh articulation, I'll do ta, ta, which is high on the palate, not where my teeth are, but higher on the palate. And if it's softer, I'll do duh, duh. And that's where my teeth meet my gums. And it's a softer consonant in general. So you want to be sure that if you're beginning that crescendo in bar 3, that da 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 is not too aggressive for the dynamic you're trying to achieve. Then you have, in bar 9, you have piano, but you have accents. So those are a little bit more aggressive. So maybe you would use ta and not da. So we can hear the difference between da and ta. You can even hear it when I'm speaking it. It sounds very, very different. So bring that out on those measures. And then we go back to the opening material. Now the grandioso section in measure 25, that's the only section where it's very lyrical. Everything else is fast and it's moving, but this is very lyrical. Again, 4-bar phrase. Go all the way to the B flat and then back. And then the same time at 29 through 32. Just continue that idea of this phrase. That's very, very, very important. Now, one thing I neglected to talk about was, let's go back to the top. It's repeated quite often. So go to measure 5. So 5 through 8. You have this hairpin again. Then when you get to the top F, that can be an accent, because that's at the climax of the crescendi. All right? So that can be a little bit more aggressive than what bar 3 was. All right. So what the judges are looking for, they're looking to see if you can really make the phrasing happen, one, but if you can make these dynamics happen, right? If you look at measure 7, you're supposed to decrescendo and then crescendo again. You know, that's intentional. So just make sure you exaggerate it. You know, you don't want it to be subtle that no one can hear it. Exaggerate it so that we know you're being intentional about what the dynamics should be doing. So that's what I have to say about this excerpt. Now I'm going to give you a performance of it. Make sure it's at quarters 144. That's the requirement. Try not to slow down, even in the grandioso section. And I think it's going to be great. Enjoy the performance. Now we'll move on to the Piccolo excerpt. This is found in the Joaquin Anderson 24 Progressive Studies for flute, Opus 33, number 19. And as most of you know, this is not originally for piccolo, but it's a great way to figure out if a piccolo player has control. One thing I would say, if you do not own a wooden piccolo made of grenadillo wood, preferably, or maple wood, or any type of wood that balances the tone, then try to rent one or try to ask a friend. The metal piccolos are great, but they're very bright, and so they're good for outdoors. But these indoor ensembles need something with a little bit more depth and quality to the sound. I have a couple piccolos, Hamig and O'Keefe. They're very nice and round and warm, and they counteract the brightness. So go for that if you can. But in this excerpt, it's not very fast. It's a quarter note equals 63. So you want to be really intentional about your breathing. Now I'm going to stop here because I'm going to give you an opportunity to mark out your measure numbers, because I'm going to be calling out some measure numbers to help you see where to take these breaths. So let's go on. So where my first breath is, it's in measure 2 after the B flat. And then you notice measure 3, I don't take a breath, because what I'm trying to do is create phrasing, which is what we were talking about in the first video for flute. So you don't want to take a breath every bar. So take it in measure 2 and then take it in measure 4 after the C. Then the next breath, it's okay probably to take it in measure 6 after the B flat, because you have a lot of material to go after that. So take it after the B flat in measure 6. Now, in measure 9 is a piano section, so it doesn't have to be that loud, and dolce means sweet. So it should be very sweet. If you can, you probably can make it through this entire phrase in one breath. That's what I did. So I did from 9 to 12 in one breath, because my dynamic was primarily a piano. This is where dynamics really come to light, and they really help you master an interpretation if you have control over them. So piano, and it does crescendo to a mezzo forte at 11, but still keep it within that piano and mezzo forte range. Then you should be able to make it in one breath. Now, in measure 13 through 16, I take a breath after the E flat in measure 14, just to allow me to give extra nuance into the high G. And then you're going to notice a subito piano in measure 15 on the A. Now, I know in piccolo that's pretty difficult, but you can do it. With piccolo, everything is magnified. And so when you're trying to play soft on the piccolo, it's not a squeezing thing. You'll find if you do that, you get that buzz. It is basically just closing your aperture and controlling how small that is. And then, of course, you would come back on air a tad bit, but keep your air fast. So just play around with long tones. But yeah, we want to see if you can create different dynamics. So really do that subito piano in measure 15. And so this excerpt tells you to stop after the second ending, so you don't have to play the entire excerpt. One other thing is intonation. I found when playing this, there were certain notes that were going to be flat and sharp on my piccolo, Every piccolo is different. So I even tell my students here to have like a chart. I want you to go through every single note on your instrument and see what the tendencies are. You know, more than likely high G, it's going to be sharp. A flat's going to be sharp. C is going to be sharp. C sharp is going to be sharp. And just kind of know your tendencies. So for me, in measure 2, I found the long A and the long B flat tended to go high, because I'm trying to sustain this crescendo. So counteract that by bringing those down. And that's what I did on both of those notes, the A and the B flat. And whenever that came back, like in measure 6, I always brought it down and it comes back again. Well, but you don't have to worry about that repeated section, but just stay consistent with that, because we want to know if you can be in tune with the orchestra. The thing about the piccolo is that you can't hide, and that's what most people don't like about the piccolo. I always liked that because it was a challenge, but you cannot hide, and so that means that your intonation, your ear has to be spot on. Okay, so watch those high notes, especially as you go to the top F, which is in measure 8, right? You can crescendo, but go to the top F. So what you're going to have to do is lip down to bring the intonation down. Open your teeth, right? And maybe not such a fast pressure of air, okay? So that's what I would do there. Watch your accidentals in measure 9. There's some enharmonic changes in here that can kind of trip you up a little bit. So you have, look at measure 9. Da 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 da. On beat 2, that's a B natural still. But then in measure 10, it goes back to B flat. Okay, so just make sure the B natural changes to B flat. And where I was talking about the enharmonic differences, where you see sharps and flats in the same measure, that can trip us up a little bit. So pay close attention. Measure 11, you have an F sharp, but then you have a B flat. It's not B natural. Okay, so F sharp, B flat, then A and F sharp. So watch that. Same in measure 13, F natural, F sharp, E sharp, F sharp, B flat. Okay, so you want to hear that minor scale. Just in general, I think, you know, just it takes a lot of control to make all of this sound homogeneous. And so what I tell my students a lot of the time, especially on piccolo, like in this opening theme, what I try to do is give it, I play a lot with tone color. When we're in the lower register, it's a darker, richer color. When it's in the top register, it's lighter. So the opening line, so I underemphasize the top, which is the G and the F, and I overemphasize the B flat, A, and A flat. And if you do that and just get a little bit lighter at the top, it'll make everything sound homogeneous, like it's the same color, because we know the tendency of the top register is just to get, you know, too loud. So you want to counteract that as well, so it sounds like one even line, especially in measure 9, where everything is very, very high. So all of that you want to bring down. Then in measure 10, that's where it gets bigger. In 11, it gets bigger. So in the lower register, it gets bigger. Last thing, articulation. Make sure you tongue the beginnings of your slurs. That's major for a lot of people. You don't want everything to just sound like one big old thing. They have articulation here for a reason. So even if the articulation is soft at the beginnings of the slurs, it should still be there. All right, so just make sure you're articulating. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It can be the duh that I was talking about, not the tuh. But in general, I think that these excerpts are really wonderful, and a lot of you know them just from doing etudes. And so I think this was really good practice, and I wish you all good luck. And you can always contact me. My email is jcurenton@su.edu. My name is Julietta Curenton, but there is no N at the end of my email. So again, jcurenton@su.edu. And just let me know if you have any additional questions, because I'm happy to talk to you, or if you want to come in for a lesson. I'm also on Instagram, Jules Music, and you can follow me there. You can look at my YouTube, but be in touch if you would like to know more. And I hope that this video has helped you. Good luck. Okay, so now for some tips on auditioning. Auditions, I think that they are about 80% mental and 20% what you're bringing to the table musically. So I would say you want to make sure that the day of you've gotten plenty of rest. You never want to start the day doing crazy things in the morning. Just do things that are, like self-care. Go to the gym, just go on a bike ride, whatever you can to relax your body and think about you and just nurture yourself a little bit. And so what I like to say, before auditions, as much as you can, do some breathing exercises. I like one that maybe some of you are familiar with, but if you put the metronome on 60, like now, and then you breathe in for 6 beats, you hold it for 6 beats, and then you breathe out for 6 beats. You hold that for 6 beats. This is meant to relax your stomach muscles. So here we go. Just an example. You can do that over and over, or you can move it up to 7 beats, maybe even 8 beats. So whatever you can to get your stomach muscles loosened up, because those are the first things that get tight when you get nervous. Also, I just find that when a person is in an audition, and I can usually tell when their mind has wandered somewhere because I lose the musical intention. So you want to be sure that you have a plan, a musical plan that I gave you in the videos. And you want to be constantly thinking about those things. Don't let your mind wander to the competition, whether or not you'll get in. That's out of your hands. All you can really do is do your absolute best. So you should be present and in the moment, thinking about musical things, thinking about the crescendos, thinking about the articulation. If you get off of that even for 1 minute, that's enough to throw you off your game. So stay engaged and mainly just have fun. Like, don't think of this as being like a competition. This is an offering. Every time I play, I think of it as an offering. And I just love to play so much that when I keep that mind frame, I generally play the best that I can. Now, when I go in nervous, thinking of comparing myself to others, that's when I get thrown off of my game. So just make sure you're engaged in the whole process, relax yourself, get your you time, and I think you'll be successful. Good luck.